Hey guys, it's Jackie from Homeschool Hangout and Nerd Family, and it is that time of year again. It is time to fill out your private school affidavit with the state of California if you are a private homeschooler. And to prove how easy it is today, I'm actually going to fill mine out with you and explain each step as we go along. I've done many walkthroughs, but people are like, oh, I bet it takes longer. No, it really doesn't. I'm sitting here with my cup of tea. I'd be history without you. My son actually brought this home to me from a homeschool Christmas party last year. And let's get into it. Links will be in the bottom and also over at Nerd Family. So the first thing you have to do is go to the California Department of Education page, which, like I said, the link will be down in the bottom for this filing the online affidavit form. And you have two choices. You have file a PSA for existing schools with 6 or more students, or file a blank PSA. Now, that 6 or more students, one of the things I hear is different is you actually go down in a registry and you get a number with the state. Don't worry about it. I hear it's not a big deal. I have less than 6 students. I have 3. So we're going to just file a blank affidavit. Basically, I hear that number means that you can log in every year and just update your PSA, whereas if you are a private homeschooler with less children than that, you have to file a new one every year. Okay, so let's just jump into it. It gives you the notices. Only full-time private schools, see education code, should complete this form. A full-time private school enrolls students who are not enrolled full-time in another public or private elementary or secondary school in any grades kindergarten through 12. So this means if you are a charter school student who receives some funding or classes through public school, this is not for you. Even if you're the one teaching your children, this is not for you. If you pay a school, not a tutor, my children are in choir and science, but if you pay a school, private school tuition, this is not for you. If you pay a group where you have to turn in your attendance every month, there's a chance that they're filing an affidavit for you, so check with them before you file this. Okay, all that takes about as long as it takes me to fill it out. So let's get into it. Do not file if it provides only supplemental or tutorial instruction. So my kid's science teacher would not fill this out for them. You know, if you only do a single subject, so if you are running a Chinese school or a Spanish school after school that is in detail, in depth, but the kids aren't getting all the subjects from you, this is not for you. And when I say running it, you can only be doing it for your kids. If you are doing younger than 4 years, 9 months, you're not allowed to fill this out. Side note, you don't need to fill it out till they're 6. If you, let's see, I'm just looking at the list, does not have students enrolled yet. So in other words, don't fill this out if you're going to start educating your kid in 2 years. This is not for you. And if you offer a high school diploma but does not provide the instruction in several branches of the study outlined in, I'll be posting a video on what those other subjects are. So first thing, is this a private full-time school? You should click yes. Otherwise, you should not fill this out. And it even pops up. It says, yes, you're saying that you offer instruction in the core areas of study. If that video is up yet, I don't think it is, but I'll come back and update this video. I'll put it in a card at the top that is on what the subjects are. So we click yes. Name of school. Now, we have been using the same name from day one. And for those of you who don't know, my children have never been in public school. They've been homeschooled from day one. I recommend that you pick a name that you will not be embarrassed to see on a high school diploma. You can change your name later. I just didn't want to. So we picked our name based on that. Enter your CDE assigned 14-digit. That is really only for the larger schools. Don't have to worry about that. The county that this is school is located in. So first you pick your county. Then you go down and you pick your district. And you're supposed to use the lookup tool. I'm in Fresno County, so it gives me some options there. And I know which district I'm in. I hear, and I say this because I've always known which district I'm in, if you have schools that are in 2 different districts that are your local schools, and that can happen. So in Fresno, let's say you're living on the edge, and so your local elementary school is a Sanger, but your kids could go into the Fresno high school. You pick whichever district that the majority of your students would fit into. Okay, then you put in an address. Now, I have a mailing address for blogging and other things. If you ever want to send me something, it'll be down in the gobbledygook. That is not the address you use. You cannot use a P.O. box. I don't know, frankly, if you can use a, like my mailing address technically is not a P.O. box. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just putting in my home address. Play it safe. Behave yourself. School telephone number, that's my cell phone. I don't have, well, I do have a Google Voice number. That is not what I use it for. Now I've got to remember. It's that moment where you go, what is my cell phone number again? And then it asks for an optional fax number. This is 2019, no fax number. Email, some people like to set up an email for their school. I don't. I just use my Nerd Family email. You know, if you want to put in an optional one, I have done that, and just in case you're having any kind of issue. It asks if you have a website address. That is specifically, in these cases, what that's good for is if you're running an umbrella group where you're filing for a bunch of people and you have a website, you can put that in there. Mailing address required only if different than number 5. I'm just going to use the same one. I have a co-educational school. 1, because I have boys and girls. But 2, I have always been told in the years when I started this, always say you're co-ed because you're not going to refuse somebody of the opposite sex. You just haven't gotten one yet. And this is a day-only school. When you start talking about residential programs, you start dealing with other insurance issues and you can flag yourself. So this is a day-only school, even though they live here. Do you offer special educational services? Typically, you always say no, even if you have special ed kids, because the state regulates what those official special ed services look like. High school diploma offered? Yes, technically a high school diploma is offered from me, but not this year. My kids are too young, and we are a non-religious school. It's one of those things you can answer either way. I know people who answer both ways, but I just like to avoid the flags. So, has the school ever filed a private school affidavit under a different school name? This is where if you changed your school name, you could say yes, and then you have to give your previous school. If it was in the previous, I think it's ever. Yeah, if you've ever had a former name. But then the next question is, has the public school district changed since last year? Mine has not. But when we moved to this house, it did. And so just for the next year, I had to enter the previous district. Then we get into statistical information. This is where you have to remember the state doesn't have a right to know everything about your kids. They ask some very bland questions. So the youngest child in this household is in school is 12 years. And how many months? And 3 months. It's the same every year. I should really remember that. And the oldest child is 16 and 3 months. But they don't ask about the months on the oldest child. They don't care. And then you have a list of grades. And you just seriously enter in the number of students you have in each grade. So I have a 7th grader, I have a 9th grader, and I have an 11th grader. So my total enrollment at the bottom, it automatically adds them up, says 3. The number of 12th grade graduates in the 2018-2019 school year. I had 0. But in the 2017-18, I had 1. So just a side note, the next year after you offer a high school diploma, you have to offer a high school diploma again, is what it says. It says, wait, you gave one, so technically you do. Full-time teachers, 1. Administrators, full-time, I say 1. This year, I am adding in a part-time teacher. So that brings my staff count to 3. Because my 16-year-old is looking to get a job. And under California law, I can self-certify for a work permit, but neither my husband nor I can sign her work permit. And all you do is I just include it in the count there. I am the site administrator, and they want your title. So if you are Mr. or Mrs., would you please put that in? And then my last name. My site administrator title, they do not have ruler of the world. It would be lovely, but they do not. And I just put in administrator, and I put in my same email address. You don't need different addresses. The principal, my husband. Yes, the teacher's sleeping with the principal. We've made this joke for a lot of years now. Normally that's frowned upon in these institutions, but you know. And they let you choose lots of different names. You can make them headmaster, you can make them all these different names. And so then I just put in our address, because one of the things they ask is if the principal is at a different address. I always want to put in my whole address there, and you don't. You just put in the street, then your city, then your state, and then I don't put in another email for him. For those of you who don't know this about my husband, I try not to let his email get out there too often, because one, you'll email him to schedule something and I won't find out about it, and two, he doesn't want to be bothered. So it says the individual who's custodian of the records. I am the custodian of the records. Did we mention ruler of the world now? My daughter says that if I didn't have children, I would have, what did you say? Taken over the world? Yeah, she says I would have taken over the world. I had to have children to keep me, innocent. Because I just didn't have time. I think she exaggerates. At least California. My 14-year-old says, well, at least California. I think this means they have faith in me, but I'm not sure. Okay, now we get to the questions people seem to get nervous about answering. So let's hop into them. They're check boxes. It's real easy. Are you tax exempt nonprofit status? No. Are you tax exempt nonprofit status under a different thing? No. Are you property tax exempt under Section 214? No. None of the above. All those things come with regulation. It sounds great, but you're not going to form a nonprofit just to teach your kids, I promise. Okay, so now you have your acknowledgments and statutory notices. All private school affidavits are public documents viewable by the public. You click yes, or you don't even click yes. It's just a checkbox. Private school affidavit must be filed by persons, firms, associations, partnerships, or corporations offering or conducting full-time schools at elementary or high school level for students between the ages of 6 to 18. So they don't say junior highs because they aren't real. Elementary and high school, we make up the middle one. Preschool should contact a licensing body. You don't want a preschool. Your kids don't have to go to preschool. Don't worry about it. Affidavit is not a license or authorization to operate a private school. This is an important part. A lot of people say to me every year in August and September, I start getting, I'm going to be homeschooling my child. Should I leave them in school until I can file the affidavit? The affidavit is not a license or authorization. It is merely a bookkeeping tool. So you are homeschooling your children based on your word, and then you file this. Private school affidavit does not indicate approval, recognition, endorsement by the state. Filing of this affidavit should not be interpreted to mean, and it shall be unlawful for any school to expressly or impliedly represent by any means whatsoever the state of California, the superintendent of public instruction, the State Board of Education, the CDE, or any division in the Bureau of the Department, or any accrediting agency has made any evaluation, recognition, approval, or endorsement of the school or course unless this is an actual fact. So if you're running like a private school, they might come in, like a big private school, they might do something. Private school authorities are responsible for initiating contact with the appropriate local authorities regarding compliance with ordinances governing health, safety, fire standards, business licensing, zoning requirements, all that stuff. All they're saying is, if you are taking other kids in and there's licensing that has to happen, all that, that's something this is not addressing. When a school ceases operation, every effort should be made to give your students a copy of their public records to the parents and guardians. You're going to have that. When your school ceases being, you're just going to keep them in a filing cabinet because that's what parents do. Retain a copy of this document for 3 years. I believe it used to be longer. I have, I think, just about every one of them. Filing a private school affidavit is not the equivalent to obtaining accreditation. This does not signify that any accrediting body is dealt with you or anything like that. So just click it. You understand, because that's the other part. Sometimes when you transfer your kids out of school, they go, oh, but are you accredited? Are you this? You're filing this. This is all the state asks of you. Leave me alone is usually my mentality. It also says that your students are full-time students in the school and are not enrolled in any other public or private elementary or secondary school on a full-time basis. And I say this, so my daughter is dual enrolled in a college right now. And all that means is she is receiving high school credit for taking these college classes. She is not changing her school registration or anything. She is first and foremost registered in my homeschool, and then she's taking some extra classes. And she's not full-time. She can only be part-time. Name the owner or head of the school. You put who you want. I'm going to put my husband because he's principal and I like making him the boss. But I put my number because, you know, we covered this, right? I feel the same way about his phone as his email. So it's so weird. I usually use a keyboard and I've got a number pad, so I'm just used to doing that. I know when his birth month is. I know when his birthday is. Don't put anybody who you don't know those information. His signature question. Okay, and then it says print and retain for your records an image on your computer scan after you click the submit. So what you do is you click the submit, and it says if you have any issues. And so, yeah. So don't look for that grade. Okay. I'm checking this over. Submit form. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I'm sure. Go boldly into the submission. It says, thank you for submitting. Please print this confirmation page. Also, if you give them an email, they will email you a confirmation. And then this year, for the first time in all the years I've been doing this, seriously, I've been doing this a long time, I got an email from the state last weekend saying, hey, just so you know, the affidavit's going to be released on the 1st. So, you know, they're stepping up their communication. That is it. How easy is that? I don't know how long I've been here, way too long, because I've been explaining every minute. Just like how long? I've been on here for 17 minutes, and that was probably twice as long as it would have taken me to fill this out. So as you can see, filing with the state of California, piece of cake. If you have any questions, concerns, let me know down in the bottom. And do you like it when I file it with you or just talk about it? I don't know. I thought I'd try something different. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.